Hello and welcome back to the WTF Sunderland podcast following another home win for the lads as we saw off bottom of the table Wolves 2-0 at the Stadium of Light. I've had perhaps the most surreal journey home, which during the course of the podcast you might hear about, you might not. I don't know. If you want to know, just ask us, but I need some normality. So without further ado, I'll just introduce tonight's guests. First and foremost, it is always Dave Lawrence. Dave, how we do, mate? You alright?
Yes, mate, all the better for getting to discuss another victory at home. 10 points from 12. Not the most miserable man on the podcast this evening Ian's here. And yeah, really looking forward to picking the bones out of it as usual. And an added bonus, Ross isn't here. Get in there!
By the way, as well, talking about the points we've taken, if anyone hasn't seen it, at the time of speaking, we have the best home record in the Premier League, or we've picked up the most points, which technically is the best home record. So that's another nice thing to add to it. Sophie Bellwood, you've joined us as well. I love you on this podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm like being on this podcast. I love being on this podcast, I should say, with all of you. But even better for discussing a home win, as if we went a full year before about not winning at home. And now we've got a fantastic, indestructible, hope that continues, home record. So yeah, feeling good about being on, and we'll discuss the bones of it.
Ian, you've joined us after you've cured your hangover from the Aston Villa game. It's took about 3 weeks, but you all right? You coping?
I'm coping, mate. I've got a bottle of red wine next to us, so I'm just sort of drinking my way through it still. Champion, yeah, really good. Football's all right again, isn't it?
I've only just started drinking since I've got in the house because a part of that surreal journey that I had was some guy who told me he's a Sunderland fan. I had to get him back to Glasgow. He didn't tell us he didn't have a ticket to get on the train, and then told me he only had a fiver. That's the first part of my weird story. I'll give you little tidbits throughout the show. I'm not going to give you all at once. There's no point. But Ian, I'll stick with you. Look, we discussed, I think, I think most Sunderland fans discussed during the week how big the game felt. If it was maybe the first home game where you felt we were favourites going into it because of the way we started, because of the way Wolves had started, but it also felt a bit banana skinny because they hadn't won in 7 games. You kind of felt like they're going to have to win at some point. They drew the last two. They only drew them because of late goals. But look, it wasn't perfect, Ian, but Sunderland passed it with flying colours. We were comfortable for large parts, I thought.
I thought we were comfortable for the whole thing. I think that they had a lot of the ball, but we don't mind that.
No.
They've actually, I know they were bottom of the league and they hadn't won in 7. That's now 11 games in a row they haven't won in Sunderland. So when before the game, my mate messaged us to say he'd put us on his last man standing because they hadn't won here in 10 attempts, and I was like, well, it's nailed on now because that's the most Sunderland thing that could happen. Bottom of the league, hadn't won in 7 games, hadn't beaten us up here in 10 games. It was just written in the stars, but it's not that Sunderland anymore. It doesn't feel like it.
No, I agree with you on that. I was talking to the lad I sit next to, Louis, like just before the game, and he said he went, "Oh, I said you sing 2-2 on the preview show." He went, "Not very confident." I said, "If I'm honest, mate, I actually felt like we might lose this game. If I had a not a good feeling about this." And we had a discussion, and the long story short, what I went, but it's a bit Sunderland, isn't it, to kind of lose this game? And he said, he went, "No, Sunderland don't do this now. Like that actually isn't Sunderland. So you shouldn't think like that because this isn't Sunderland." And it was kind of weird that I agreed with him because, look, things can change and there'll be a point when it feels a bit Sunderlandy. But today was, it's a game where in the past I think Sunderland would have probably gone into it and got a crap result from. And to be honest, I felt it wasn't a perfect performance. I thought the first 30 minutes were excellent. I think it was ironically after Ricky accidentally gave the ball away, then Enzo accidentally gave the ball away, we kind of swung it in their favour a bit and give them a bit of confidence. But outside of that chance they had where the lad put it wide of the post and it was a long ball over the top, I don't really remember too many hairy moments out of, oh God, why do they have the ball as much as they have? But as you said, we're comfortable with that. Dave, ultimately, like I said before, like a big win. Today was a big win in the context of the season. A big loss for Wolves. It's another nail in potentially a relegation rival's coffin, although at the minute we actually haven't been anywhere near the relegation spots all season, but let's assume that there'll be tougher times ahead potentially because the season's long and arduous. But A big win, another massive test covered off. I think Dave, isn't it? Really, a big test, but flying colours, comfortable, confident. Another happy Saturday at the Stadium of Light.
Absolutely, mate. And that's all we can keep doing. Just competing. We never in a million years expected that our home form would be as good as that, even though we've had some easy fixtures, inverted commas, as people like to remind us. There isn't an easy game in
No
this league.
such
It's
thing.
just, yeah, exactly that. We know it. People can tell us what they want. We're we're probably a problem for a lot of teams. There's no doubt. Say this before Chelsea next week and we'll get beat 7-0. But you just, we keep going on about it. We keep going on about the recruitment. We keep going on about certain profiles. We keep going on about Labrie. Like, you're gonna get into it. You're gonna get into like top three players of the game if there was such a thing. Just look at the profile of people like Nordi Mukiele. Jeez, he's an absolute animal. He is an absolute animal, and there's so many of them. And whilst I think even you, who were the out of all of us, who was probably the hardest convert and kind of feeling hard done to for the likes of Roberts and Dan Neil and stuff like that. Geez, we've just elevated our football club so much. And the people who have the ability to catch on will join in for the ride. Those that don't will go on to pastures new and we'll never be able to thank them enough. But we are just a completely different beast, I think.
It's funny, I went to the game today with Patrick, my friend, who's came last season, started coming a few games last season. He's a Celtic fan, and he enjoyed it that much. He was like, I want to come back, but he hasn't really had the chance to come back. And he went to Millwall at home and Watford last season with the two games he came to, and he was like, "Whoa!" Like I didn't realize how like big of a football club this was. Like I've really enjoyed it, and now it's like a team where like he'll actively say like, "How are the lads?" He enjoys this as like his English team to watch, and he's been begging to go down. And he managed to get down today. And I was like, do you see like a contrast? And he was like, oh my God, you've got players that just control the game. He's like, you've got play. It's like Xhaka just literally bossed that midfield the entire day. He was like the lad in the middle, Siddiqui, running everywhere. And he was like, and the boy at the back, he's just like, what's he doing? Like, just ridiculous. But Sophie, I'll ask you about that. Look, first goal scorer. We could talk about the goal itself for a long time, I think, to be honest, because it was like, why is our left back passing it to our right back in the box to not make the goalkeeper? That's a conversation on its own. But I'd normally say who stood out for you today. There's more than him that stood out, but Nordi was man of the match today and just continues to be such a huge presence. Like, how impressed have you been by not just him today, but just since he came in the door?
Oh, incredibly. I think it's already been said how much of an athlete he is. I think personally he's a warrior. How many times that lad gets fouled? I actually think that it's quite a high amount really, and he goes down and he gets straight back up. I do think he's a little bit mad as well, which is what I love. Like the other week when he pointed to the corner flag. Did you see that? He just pointed to the corner flag, almost telling the linesman, yeah, it's a corner. But today he was levels above. Fantastic. And the goal itself was, I actually do think in the first half an hour, like you've already said, we played some fantastic stuff. And the centre backs were integral to that as well. The way we were getting the ball out, we were getting it down the lines, we were getting it quick into feet. And that goal itself was a perfect bit of play. And you know what? He took his strike really well. It was at a difficult angle and he followed it in and it was absolutely fantastic. But like what Dave said, we've elevated our squad so much. And today I was the opposite. I felt really confident going in and it did feel like what you've already said, banana skin. It felt like a game all Sunderland would have completely got a crap result. But you know what? It doesn't matter about possession. It doesn't matter about anything like that. You can only beat what's in front of you. It's as simple as that.
I think the simple fact that I even discussed that Wolves at home might be a banana skin was probably shows you how far we've come. Like, there shouldn't be a banana skin in this division. We're newly promoted, and the teams the past two seasons before us, Burnley and Leeds got promoted this season, couldn't win a game until like November. And like I mean, I'm looking at him going, oh, is this a banana skin? Like as if we're planning on Europe and Wolves was going to be a pain in the arse. Like Wolves are an established Premier League side that really should be causing us more worries than they did. And today I thought I had a lot of the ball, but I do think that that was by design, not by fault. I know it gets people a bit tetchy. It does for me a little bit sometimes. But you touched on like Mukiele, and I know people. I'm nervous about pronouncing his name now because someone was having a go and ready to go about podcasts getting names wrong, and I don't know if they mean us or not. And I'm just like, shit, am I saying it right? But if it's not Mukiele, then I don't know what it is. His stats today are incredible. 75 touches. He won 15 duels in total. 10 of those were aerial duels. He won seven times, the one possession seven times. He had three touches in the opposition box, two shots. He had two take-ons completed and one goal. Uh, just like there was a point when we were really under pressure, and I was like, oh, he's in a bit of a tight box there. And rather than just launching it and getting rid of it, he just took the player on. And I was just like, well, that's the boy's pedigree was good before he came, but I mean, the way he played today and the way he's played recently, I feel like we've talked about him a lot. Today he gets like a special mention, but if you listen back to the past few weeks, it's not. He slotted in perfectly, and long may it until he beat it right back, beat it centre back, beat up front, wherever he wants to play. I don't give a shit at the minute. The boy's like going to be a cult hero. His song's excellent. He scores goals from right back, and I haven't seen him lose a duel. I'm sure he has, but I haven't seen him lose one since he's came in. Just fantastic. Ian, there's a couple of players that really stood out for me. One massive player that stood out for me, if I'm honest. I'm sure we'll get onto it, but who else stood out for you today? Because I think there was a lot of good performances.
I think Chris Rigg stood out. I thought he was. I didn't notice him have a bad game. I think every game he has, he gives the ball away in a ridiculously dangerous situation, and we recover from it. But there was the recovery run when they broke from a corner where he got back and he won us a goal kick, and he was blown a little bit after that, like for about 5 minutes, like hands on knee stuff. But just it's not something you'd expect. I mean, you'd expect an 18-year-old kid to have that energy, but just I thought he was excellent. I thought Enzo was superb again. His defensive work is just so underappreciated. And last season we wouldn't have seen it because he was one of our main attacking outlets for the last parts of the season. But defensively this season, and his work rate, you just can't appreciate it enough. How much running he does, and he's just from where he was at the start of the season when there was rumours about him wanting to leave because he wasn't necessarily going to be started, and he's basically just not given Libri an option. It's like I'm your option here, I'm your option in the middle, but he's just absolutely sensational. I knew he was good, and I knew he would be good enough for the Premier League, but I don't think I expected him to be like bossing games like he is. I know Jacques is getting a lot of the plaudits, but I think Lefay's just probably slightly gone under the radar, in the mainstream, and Jacques is getting a lot of the plaudits because he is just the metronome. But Lefay does a lot of stuff, so Jacques can do his.
Do you know what I like about Lefay as well, though? We had this conversation on this podcast a lot, and the fan base had the conversation a lot about wanting them in the middle as opposed to being on the left. And I think I said the Burnley game on this podcast, I was like, I don't want him on the left, I want him in the middle. He works so hard and he brings so much. I've got to the point where I don't care where he plays. As long as he's in the team, I'm not bothered. Because I now understand why Lebris played him on the left a bit. In the Premier League, he offers you enough as a creative outlet in that kind of tucked in left wing position. And on the right, he changed on the right the second half a little bit when Talby came on. So you had that. But then his defensive work, as you said before, is superb. His tackles, he put a tackle in there, it was great. They had that montage of tackles that we put in against Brentford when there was some proper big tackles going in. He makes two of them. Lefay was signed as the godly playmaker that was going to make us all gasp. He does that, but he just offers more. But Dave, just at the off chance that you're not going to mention him, I think, Dave, that No Siddiqui might be a player we might really struggle to hold on to in the months to come. I thought he was outstanding today, covered every single blade of grass. We talked about him stamping his foot down on his ankle when his ankle was a bit broke towards the end and he's twisted it. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but he kind of stamps his ankle out as if to be like, well, if this is broke, I'll try and just kind of push it back in. I think he's hard as nails. I think he's got endless energy. He doesn't seem to stop. I think he's got quality on the ball. He really is like I don't want to say an N'Golo Kante because what a fantastic footballer, but that's the only example I can come to. He's like our little version of that, and I think he's going to be a player that, God, I hope it's not anytime soon, but I think that boy's going to make us a hell of a lot of money. But how good again today, Siddiqui? I feel like we talk about him every week again. Great player, great performance, great signing.
Absolutely classy, like just classy, simple as that, and that goes for a fair few of them, to be fair. um, you can teach players to be better footballers. You can't teach people to have desire and heart and fight and energy. My God, he's a beast. He's like a really, really small, nippy beast. He's unbelievable. Absolutely fantastic. I think what he does is phenomenal. And one of those things that like just won't really be truly appreciated till he's not in the team, or dare we say we've lost him. Every team needs one. Every team in modern football has had one. And I dare say he's like our Job upgrade. I mean, absolute. I don't even know what version of upgrade you give it. It's more than 2.0. He's phenomenal, and I haven't got enough superlatives for him, to be honest. Animal, absolute animal.
I think, not that it matters, but I don't think Job gets in the team if he stayed. I think he'd be a great squad member, but I was a huge Job fan. Like, I loved him. Still do. But doesn't get in the team the way those boys play. And then we're missing Diarra. We're missing our record signing. I think that's probably lost on people as well because of how good the midfield was. I agree with what Ian was saying about Riggy. I think people might concentrate on the few times he lost the ball, but his effort, his endeavour, his desire, and he's like just a couple of times when he made the right body movement to pick the right pass to make sure that we kept the ball. And yeah, he was blown a bit at the end and he went off, but I thought Riggy was great today. I thought Ballard was a colossus. I don't think he lost the header. Like, but I feel like I'm talking. I feel like when I say, "Oh, Ballard was brilliant," he did all these things. I'm like, well, he did that last week and the week before and the week before that and the week before that, and he did it for the international team during the midweek as well. The whole team just performed at such a high level. I think Roof's a couple of times like has probably made saves that are harder than that they you anticipate them to be, but he made them so basic. You just don't even think it was that much of a chance. I thought Wilson ran his legs off today. A couple of times could have done a bit better, but like Wilson's Wilson, we know what we're going to get with him. I think even Traore put a shift in today. I know people might think they're not too sure about Traore, and I thought Talby was the better option when he came on, and we moved Enzo to the right. But I thought Traore put a shift in as well today. Like I have no real complaints. I really don't have any complaints at all. But there was a change in the setup. Sophie, we went with Nordi. He went the right back position as opposed to centre back, so he started a right back, which was clearly so he could not make the goalkeeper from inside the box after collecting the ball off the man who went to left back, Trey Hume, who I think he's sort of forgetting that this was Trey's first season. And I think there's been times when I've been like, oh, okay. Like, I can tell it's his first season in the Premier League, but he's coping really well. And I thought you've had a really good game today. I thought he added a lot offensively, but I think there'll be a few people that look at maybe the 30-minute onwards to about 70 minutes and say, oh, well, Wolves had a lot of the ball. Can't disagree with that. I think that, again, might have been by design rather than by as a problem or something that they did. But I thought those first 30 minutes, Sophie, were, in my opinion, the best we've looked all season. Yes, it would have been nice if it was 90, but I thought that first 30 minutes was as comfortable as I've felt as a Premier League team since we come up. Any disagreement on that?
No, none at all. I do think that was probably the best that we've played in terms of a spell under Reggie, particularly at the stage of my life, like what you're saying. It was sharp, it was quick, and I also think the tactical changes. Look, I was at Man United and he got it wrong, and I think he knew he got it wrong. Today, he got it spot on. I think dropping Masuaku, even though I do think he was left hung out to dry at Manchester United, I thought that it was defensively the right option to do that because essentially our defensive line can play. We can play with the ball at our feet, which I think is a massive bonus in this division when you need to be able to play with your feet. It's especially in a defensive element. You know, your defense is your first line of attack. You know, it's as simple as that. And I do think that Trey sometimes it is difficult for him, but we all know that with young players, he's still a young lad. Inconsistencies, and it's the same with Riggy. Okay, players dip in form, players maybe have 5, 10 minutes of a bad spell, but in my opinion, Kieran will just get better. I think he can compete at this level. Same as Ballard's taken like a fish to water. You know, I think that he held Strand Larson completely. He handled him completely, and they were almost trying to make it into a game of basketball. I don't know if anyone else agrees with that. They were almost trying to make it into a game of basketball.
Yeah.
You know, with kicking it long. Their plays, I don't know where they're getting them from. There were giants coming on. They were absolutely massive, and I did think that when they were coming on, I was like, oh no, they're just going to be lumping balls into the box. But you know what? Our colossal back line was
Like,
incredible today.
I thought Ballard. I mean, I haven't even talked about Alderete. He's fucking sick.
Oh, it was
Like,
amazing.
ridiculous. Like, I haven't even touched on him because I've now gone, oh yeah, we have a centre back that just occasionally can just like glide past players. Like, so many attacks come from Alderete just being class at football. So weird. Like, it's like watching a prime Nairo and Nosworthy. Nah, he's a little bit better. But yeah, Ballard. I felt Strand Larsen's clearly a good striker. I know he hadn't scored in the Premier League this season, but he got 14 last year. There was a small team up the road that were interested in him at some point. I can't remember the name, but I think it was 50 million was touted at him. I couldn't tell you what he did today, and that was because Ballard just like absolutely fucked him. Like yeah, Ballard is. The more I watch Ballard, the more like any doubts I had about him. Maybe last season at points I'm like, nah. But like I watched him for Northern Ireland midweek, and I know a lot of people went, oh well, the guy scored, but he was colossal. He just wins headers. He wins everything in the air. He just feels like since that Coventry game, he's gone. I'm never going to lose a ball in the air ever again. And it's at that point where I go, has he lost one since? He's been an absolute colossus, and I'm really pleased that he stepped up. Same with Hume and the other boys in that as well. Excellent. Yeah, I don't know what to say more about it. We're really fucking mint. We're a really good team, and it's great. But Ian, I wanted to talk a bit about the atmosphere. I was thinking about it this morning. Cat woke me up at 5 to 6, meowing on, whinging on. And I was like, oh. And then I remember it was Saturday. I'll be honest, I bounced up. And get a coffee, get my shirt on. Like, oh, what am I going to wear today? What brilliant piece of merch that I have in the cupboard am I going to get today? I feel like I'm bouncing up at 6 a.m. to get my train. Happy, not that tired, like buzzing to get on it, buzzing to get the game. I've had 2 drinks today. I'm on my second one now. It's not like about going out and getting drunk. And if you want to do that, I totally get it. Like, Sunderland would drive me to alcoholism. They're playing that well at the moment. It's getting to that point. But I'm just really excited to go get into the ground. I'm not the kind of person to film the stadium, but sometimes when I'm seeing like them singing Wise Men Say at the end, or when we've scored, I'm filming a bit, and I don't really like that being on my phone. But I'm like, I need to remember this because like this just feels so good. I feel like I'm bouncing up at 6 a.m. in the morning to get in the train. You'll bounce up at 9, 10, whenever it is to get the game, and I feel like I'm floating. I'm skipping back home at like 4:45 onwards to get the train. And as weird as the train journey was today, the second part of the story. Um, we had 2 kids who must have been about 6 year old, both bright ginger. I got on the train before I said anything with literally like another 6 lads who were dead quiet. This little ginger kid turned around and went, "Shut the fuck up, bitches," and repeated it for like an hour. And it was the most surreal thing ever because his mum just let him do it. And then the kid did exactly the same. And the kid looked like a 6 year old version of the main character from Fifth Element. It was fucking mental. It was like being in The Shining. I was expecting them to come down on little tricycles. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the episode of Rick and Morty where all the parasites come to visit and they can't decide who's like the real friends and who's a parasite and have to like stab and shoot them to work out which ones are real and which ones are just fake memories. That was what my train journey was like today, and I'm only halfway through the story. I will come back to this, but Ian, the atmosphere at the stadium, it just feels good going to see Sunderland again. It just feels nice. I'm buzzing going to see Sunderland. I'm buzzing coming back. I don't think I've ever felt like this. I don't think I have, and I include the Quinn and Phillips years, which were great, but I've never felt like this.
I think a lot of it comes down to Dan Ballard doesn't score that header. It's a very different situation we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Like back, if we're obviously going back, and I was trying to think since that Coventry game, the first Coventry game where he came again, I can't think of a time where someone's beaten Dan Ballard in the air. And I might be blowing smoke up his arse, and he might have lost a header once or twice, but it doesn't feel like it. He just feels like it's not the question you asked, but he's somebody who you thought, am I thinking with me heart to say that he could make it in the Premier League, or am I thinking with me head? And I'm probably thinking with my heart because he can get injured quite a lot. He's obviously had an injury already this season, but he's stepped up, which is a cheesy playoff final slogan, I know, but he's been superb. Atmosphere is great. Came up with Z cars, which was interesting going back like the 60s days. I know it's Everton's song now, isn't it? But
Pulled on my heartstrings, the whole Roker Park stuff today pulled on my heartstrings a bit.
Yeah.
Made it better for me.
It is Founders Week though, isn't it? So it's there's been some good stuff, some good memories of times gone. But no, I mean, it's watching games last year when things weren't going so well, sort of the second half of the season, and the crowd were just getting on the team's backs. But this season, it seems like we've learned that the crowd have learned from what to expect from Reggie a little bit, because even when they were having all of the ball, there was the crowd did not get restless, because you could just, well, for me anyway, I could just think, well, all it takes is they have a corner, all of their players are at the front post, they play it at the back post, and then we go up the other end and score two, and it goes 2-0, which is exactly what happened. And I don't know why Wolves packed the front post and then the lad put it all the way at the back post with the corner, but the small margins, isn't it? But the crowd were superb. There's always a part of it you can hear sort of trying to get chants going and stuff, which wasn't the case last year. It was nervous a lot of the time and anxious, especially when it was 1-0 or we were losing and getting late equalisers. Like the Preston game sort of springs to mind. But it's are the good times back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I've never really felt like as a kid, I don't know, like the Quinn and Phillips years were amazing. The Summerbees, the Johnsons, like they'll be like some of my favourite players I'll ever see. And you'll never replace Quinn and Phillips. Never. I don't care if someone scores 45 goals a season. Quinn and Phillips are like the men that will always be the ones for me. Yeah, Alex Reyes, your Stefan Schwartz, and it was an amazing time to grow up and watch football as like a young lad, like 12, 13.
You'll never replace Danny Deco and Mickey Bridges as the second set of strikers.
Yeah.
Like you just won't, because take that ACL injury away from Michael Bridges and he plays for England like regularly, the one that he got at Leeds. So
just an amazing time to support Sunderland at that point, but I'm kind of hardened by the adult life of supporting Sunderland. I've seen some shit. We've all seen some shit now. We can all, like, when your dad and that would be like, oh, well, you've never seen them in Division 3? Oh, fuck, no. I've seen them there quite a lot, actually. During the COVID season, when I watched them on the telly struggle to beat Blackpool. And I'm kind of hardened by that, where part of me is pessimistic, because I'm like, well, it'll never be brilliant. And even I'm starting to believe. And I'm loving going to the game. I'm loving watching the players. And it's weird, I'm watching these really quality footballers that are worth the millions of pounds that they deserve. Like Xhaka, right at the end, we got a corner right at the end when Mayenda went on that run. And Xhaka went over to take a corner and he strode over and he's just giggling to himself. He ended up not having to take the corner because the ref blew the full-time whistle. But he was just like giggling to himself at the southwest corner. And I'm like, that's gone Xhaka, by the way. And there's only so many times I can say it before it's going to really sink in. But we have this like bunch of quality players mixed with players that got us out of that division last year and got us back to where we felt we deserved to be, or not where we deserved to be, where we felt we could, where we felt we had to be to flourish to our full potential. but I feel like we're now like realizing the potential. And I said this before last season, on I think it was on an opposition show. I'm 40 next year. Like I'm past the point of like heroes and all that kind of stuff. I pay me money and I travel down because I like seeing my friends, I like seeing my family, I like having that day with my fiance. I love having those days with my fiance, to be honest. It's now like a day thing. It's something I'm really passionate about. And I just want to see a team on the pitch that tries as hard as they can and wins when they can. And like I'll suck it up when we get beat. And I've got more than that. And like that's class. Like I've got more than just well, I've got a nice team that tries hard and does stuff. And we're having to sell our soul to get it either. Like the soul is like so Sunderland. I feel like this is proper Sunderland, and I feel like there'll be kids watching it, like watching this and just being like, "This is their Phillips and Quinn," and that makes me feel happy and confident about the future because I know like if they're anything like me or you, Ian, or you, Sophie, obviously you're a bit younger, but you had the worst times to grow up in. Or like you, Dave, you're the same age as me. I know they'll still be there because they've seen what Sunderland can be. And they're starting to show what it can be. And the only way you could get better than this is if we qualify for Europe. And I'm not saying we'll do that. I don't think we will. I don't want to be pessimistic. I'd love to dream, but I've got a bit of hope that we can have a really good season this season, keep our heads above water, and then start going right. What's next? And that's all you can ask for, unless you want to go and support Man United or Chelsea or whoever, Liverpool, which is your prerogative. It's fine. And if you're born in those areas, you don't that it is what it is. Or if you've got a family connection to those teams, it is what it is. With Sunderland, like, and a lot of clubs like us, the most you can hope for is like maybe pushing to Europe, having a few good days and having memories that you can tell your kids about, so that or the younger people in your family, so they can go, oh right, okay, you can go stick with a kid because like I know it's shit at the minute, but it'll be good at one point. And that Ballard moment was kind of that for me. But I'm also now seeing a team that really is like progressing. It's enjoyable to go at the game, and I'm like, this is your team, this is your community, this is your football club. Like, look how good it is, and they're going, oh yeah, it's actually really good. I'm only on 2 drinks, by the way. I will get to the third part of the story, but before I do, Sophie, yeah, it's just nice to see Sunderland in the state it's in at the minute, isn't it? It's in a good state.
It's unbelievable. You touched on it there about that I've supported the club during probably the worst period of time. Bearing in mind, I'm 23.
Not
This is my
probably. There's no probably about it, Sophie. You literally,
definitely.
you saw George Dobson and Callum
Oh,
McFadden played for the club about 4 years ago.
mental. And how quickly things can change. Like, that's unbelievable. But I'm having the same reaction as what you are to a match day, that I'm getting up earlier. I'm excited to go. And a word that you used there, which I think was the biggest part of what you said, was community. And it feels like that's back. It feels like everyone's going in with a smile on their face and everyone's looking forward to seeing the lads try and play and win, which is, it's about results at the end of the day. But there's just such a good feeling around the football club. The ethos. I mean, you said it yourself about, that Ballard goal. It felt like a massive turning point for us. And it did, and it has, and it's changed so much. And we are riding the wave of feel good, but you know what? We're going to enjoy it. Like, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to look at the Premier League table for the next week every day because I'm just going to enjoy the moment of being in the Premier League, doing really well. And, like you said, there's kids watching and they'll think this is normal. Like,
Yeah.
that's the mental thing. They'll think this is normal. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, the opposition, they've got the ball in our side of the pitch. And I'm thinking, oh God, don't score, don't score. But that's because we're not used to having nice things. But it's rather nice being in the Premier League at the moment.
I remember being a kid in the Grange, before the Grange was like a family pub, which now allegedly is. I still like the Grange. I was in that day. No slant on the Grange. I'll not have nothing bad said about it. But that used to be like my match day pub where my dad when I used to go to Roker. And I remember the first season, like I can't remember what game it was. We drew like 1-1 against someone in the championship with Quinn Phillips Summerby. It was in the first season at the stadium, and I was fuming. I remember my dad's mate when he like nudged my dad and he went, just doesn't know how good he's got it, does he? He doesn't get this. And I was like, well, no, like we didn't win today and we should have won and stuff like that. But now I get it now. Like I get it now. Like there'll be kids who like will get raging when we don't beat like Arsenal or something, and you just be like, you just, I'm not quite sure you get how much fun you're having, but like that's what kept. Well, it wasn't success that kept me on board. It was very much enjoying going to the game and feeling part of the community. The success helps. Being a good team that you can trust in, it helps. And I feel like I was getting worried maybe 5 years ago. Like I was thinking, why would kids go watch this? It's shit. Like why would kids go watch it? We have no hope here. Like there's players here who just clearly aren't big enough for the shirt. The club's run like a mess. Salmon pants telling us we're not good enough and all that shite and all that crap that he had to spout out of his stupid mouth. And now I'm like, I totally get why kids would be up for it. Like, yeah, I'm just really happy with the way things are. Dave, I mean, is this the best time we've had since? I know the Roy Keane era was amazing. The Roy Keane era was incredible, and things can change. But is this the best we've probably felt since we were kids, which was a really, really long time ago, Dave?
A really long time ago. Do you know what it is? You've alluded to it without actually mentioning it. The ownership group is phenomenal.
Yeah,
It's
fair
as
play.
simple as that. Like, I have that much faith in it that. Do you remember back in the day when we're sitting second in December and you go out and you're looking for them to kick on and you're looking for them, and whether it was because we didn't have the money, whether we were too cautious, whether we were whatever, if we were second in the league in December, I'm telling you now, Dreyfus, the whole ownership group, throw everything at qualifying for the Champions League. Like, absolutely throw everything. It's not going to happen.
Like, there's part of me that wants to tell you to calm down, but I don't want to. Like, fuck
Nah.
that. Like, let's get carried away, man. Like that. Like, honestly, that line, by the way, God rest his soul. Never met the guy, but that'll live with me for the rest of my life because it's it's the most bang on saying with Sunderland. Doesn't always get good. Let's get carried away with it.
Absolutely, but it's based on experience, isn't it? It's not just like free thinking. It is actually based on experience. None of us, not one of us, expected to be signing the players that we've signed. And we're probably going to ourselves, right? We need the Championship's best player. We need Vinny Souza from Sheffield United. Vinny Souza. He doesn't get an hour under 23s.
There was people who wanted Gustavo Hamer. Like,
Yeah, it's mental. It's
I'm not saying he's a bad
absolutely
player, but he doesn't get anywhere near our bench.
nowhere near. Like, I thought Ipswich this year, going down, would have a really, really good Championship squad. I just think that football's evolved so much that it's a bang average Championship squad, and they're not going to thank me for that. But where we've gone to is phenomenal. We're a third of the way to safety already. We've played 8 games. That's all I'm after. Just the other 28 points this season, please. And then after that, I'll get properly carried away. But I firmly believe that if we are lacking a centre forward in January and not scoring goals, I think we go out and get one. And that's such a nice feeling to have faith in the club, not just the players that we've got. I think Labrie is articulate. I think he's fantastic. I said it after watching a pre-season friendly, and I stick by it. I think the players all have the right profile. Why does Granit Xhaka love Sunderland? Like, on what planet? Why does Granit Xhaka love Sunderland? Apart from the fact we're giving him 90 grand a week, that's fair enough. Like, you've got to love your employer.
Worth it.
But like, absolutely worth it. And some of the, I won't go as far as saying charlatans, but some of the absolute amateurs that we have had previously, unfortunately, I understand why they took a chance. I understand, but there is not a single move that they have done and suggesting playing EDM on the Tannoy system gets you to this. It doesn't get you to this. And absolute kudos to the people who have gotten us to where we are and given us, and that's all we ask for, giving us every single chance of actually achieving something. And achievements to us will be completely different to I was going to say Man United, but avoiding relegation is the same type of thing. Like completely different to City, who want to go and win Champions Leagues and whatever. That comes in 3 seasons' time. It's all about the now, and tongue in cheek and whatever. But it's just nice to have confidence as well as hope, and I think that's the biggest compliment I can pay everyone involved with a football club.
I think you talked about the ownership and Xhaka and stuff, and why does Xhaka love Sunderland, or what does he appear to love Sunderland? I think the biggest compliment we can give to players like Mukiele, coming from PSG, and Xhaka obviously being the poster boy for like the wow signing. I think it's a massive feather in the cap for the ownership, who, like, I'm not going to stand and always say like I've been totally in support of them. Still was fuming about Black Cat's Bar stuff. I'll stand by the stuff I said then. But they've shown some of the best players in Europe that they've shown the potential that Sunderland Association Football Club have. And I think when you can tap into that potential and you can see an element of it, it's very, very easy to buy into it. Because ultimately, it's a nice place to be. It's a fun place to be. It's a good place to play your football. If you can tap into that potential and show it to people, it's very easy to convince them to come here in this part of the globe. And I think there'll be people listening to this going, bloody hell, they've only beaten like bottom of the table Wolves. Yeah, but I think you can only really understand why we're so happy about things like that when you've been through what we've been through. Our story's our story. Your story's your story if you support a different club. This is ours. We've wanted this for decades. I've wanted this since Quinn Phillips times, and I've said before, like I think this might even be better. The way I feel at the moment, because I'm so hardened by shit I've had adult life, that pessimism is a natural thing, and I'm going to the game just buzzing. Like, honest to God, I feel like I'm going to bed with Angelina Jolie every night. Sorry, I mean Ashley every night. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's my kind of like, my vibe is just good. And I sound like, I hate saying that, I hate the word vibe, but I feel just good to be a Sunderland fan. Look, we've got a couple of listeners' questions before I bang on about how wonderful everything is.
Just
Dave,
sorry,
no,
just really quickly.
What?
Well, the only thing I'd say, one thing that
What?
just kind of like dropped on me was like if the likes of Granit Xhaka is thinking about when he's retiring and stuff like that, which he seems like a very articulate bloke. If you need a property portfolio, Pennywell's probably got some really decent house prices, so that's probably half his reason for coming to Sunderland as well.
I just am really pleased that he fancied it, and like I get it because what a wonderful place to live, best place on the planet, apart from obviously where I live right now. But Ian, a couple of listeners' questions here. One of them's regarding the team next week. Chelsea away, it's a tough place to go, not impossible. Ronaldo's back, really impressed us before he got his silly suspension, gave away that penalty against Brentford, and obviously got sent off silly. Do you change things? Or I suppose you wouldn't change much else apart from maybe Traore and Talby, but how do you set up against Chelsea?
I think Talby's performances coming on and playing on the left have shown Lebris that that's where it's going to be his strongest position
Agree.
because he's obviously Traore has been in there and not and Talby's not really been thought about in that way for a couple of games now. I'm not totally against, excuse me, Ronaldo coming back in and Ballard going back on the bench because if things don't go well at Chelsea, we can change things and change the shape. We'd probably play 5 at the back. I wouldn't be against that. I think Trey Hume's equally comfortable just as standard fullback or wing back. He's in the 80th percentile for challenges won this season. Like he's in, I can't remember the exact figures, but when you were talking about him earlier, I meant to jump in and mention like he's better than 80% of the defenders in this league in like 4 or 5 key stats. And I was concerned about his pace, but his positioning's just sort of taking his pace out of the equation. I think we'll go probably play 5 at the back next week. Because I watched Chelsea today against Forest, and first half they were there to be got at. To be fair, they weren't anything special, but Forest just crumbled like a house of cards. Once they conceded one, it was just all pile on. But to touch on something you said earlier, my best mate, he started taking his son a couple of years ago, and then his son's now excited that he can go and watch us play Chelsea and people like Cole Palmer. My nephew, he's never been to a game before, but he's never been interested. But now he's asked my brother, who's like, "Can we go to the match?" He's like, "Yeah." "Oh, which one? Can we go and watch Chelsea? Watch Cole Palmer?" It's like, "Yeah, we can go and watch Cole Palmer play football at Sunderland now." And it's just, we were watching Josh Scowen for Wickham 2-3 years ago, and now we've got these, yeah, and Alfie May for Stevenage, and these are the players who are like, we're standing out, and now we've got obviously these world class players who are coming every week,
and we're competing with them. I think that's the big thing, is we're competing with them.
Well, that's it, yeah, we are competing with them. I said we'd have 7 points after the first 5 or 6 games. I think I've got it written down upstairs. I've not moved it since. I spilled some water on it the other day, so it might not be readable, but it's past my expectations. I'm with you. I'm excited to be able to take my son in a couple of years when he's probably old enough, and that hope we're still on the upward trajectory when that comes round, because it's just looking at, when you were saying about recording stuff as well, like looking at the pictures from the night we won against Coventry, like I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, I'll be able to tell my little boy, your granddad was in there. Your granddad was in the crowd, where there's the picture of the team stood arm in arm in front of the Roker end. And my dad's not going to be in there. He's at the other end. He's in the old family stand in the northwest corner. But, it's just like your granddad was there, and it's just a good memory. Just all it is a picture of something that happened after something great happened. But it's just all the stories that you've got in your own head and your memories of the night that you can tell. Do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't have been able to say this 2 or 3 years ago, because I was sat in a caravan outside Ashington watching us draw 2-2 at home to Gillingham after we were 2-0 up, and then Phil Parkinson saying he'd have taken a point. Like, fuck that.
Good side, he said. I think he said. But I think you're right in what you say. Like, why, without getting too deep, why do I like football? Just the way I was brought up. I think it's kind of the way it is, isn't it? But like, I always felt like, how could I convince my kid or like someone who was like, why should I go and watch Sunderland? How do I convince them? For a long time, I couldn't. Now I just go, Ballard, this moment, and this is what happened after it, and all this was brilliant, and this was best in my life, and I cried, and honestly, I think I might have shat my own pants, and it was brilliant. Third part of the story, regarding the train journey. There's a guy that got on he was from Pakistan, and he kind of just randomly grabbed us on the train, me and my pal, when we were sitting with everyone else, and he said, "Do you like Cristiano Ronaldo?" And I went, "No, mate, I like Nordi Mukiele." And he went, "Oh, well, everyone in Pakistan likes Cristiano Ronaldo. Everyone in China likes Cristiano Ronaldo. And everyone in India likes Cristiano Ronaldo. They've got posters on the wall everywhere. Do you like Cristiano Ronaldo?" I said, "No, I think Messi's better if we're talking like that kind of realm." And he went, "If you said that in my country, you would get so much anger in our eyes." And then just walked off. So that's the third part of the weird train journey, because I'm going to give you the story throughout. I've got one more bit to go. But listeners' questions here is quite a good one here, Sophie. I like this question because I don't think it's answerable. So that makes it a good question in some ways.
Amazing.
I know. Someone said, who's our best right back? But before you answer that, one thing I was quite disappointed with, Ian was talking about Trey Hume's stats before. I'm kind of disappointed it hasn't got bodies collected, because I think at the moment he's racking up more than fucking Ed Gein, isn't he, with his tackles and stuff like that. So, fair play, mother. But best right back, difficult choices, 3, 4 that could fit in.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always going to be Hume, because I don't know. I just think that, but I do think that it's subjective. It's whoever you're playing against. You've got to prepare to combat who's in front of you. like today, I know it's not right back, but with the left back situation, everyone had to be juggled about because if Masuaku played, it probably would have left us with a kind of a weak spot. You know, I'd still think he's a good player, but we needed to be defensively astute, and I think it was important we got something today, particularly after getting beat. But that is quite unanswerable.
I find it difficult. I'd say Hume just because he's like John Kay, Chris Macon, Trey Hume. I
Yeah.
like a certain particular kind of right back. But Dave, I'm going to let you have the last word before I finish off the final part of my story, which is just so surreal. So Danny Welbeck, very funny, very funny. Just fucking calls per weekend there. Yes, Dave. You can just agree. You can just say yes.
Absolutely. I mean,
Funny.
he's got his Zimmer frame out and he's still banging them in for fun. Fair player. I understand why there was a little bit of a desire to have him back. He's a model pro. He's a top bloke.
Happy
Started
with
all
happy with what he did this weekend. He can wear the Brighton colours.
absolutely,
There'll not
absolutely.
be any jokes made about Seagulls this week because that would backfire quite quickly because he got beat off the Seagulls. Final bit of the story to let you end on this. So after all this happened, so random guy who didn't buy a train ticket home, brand new Sunderland top in by the way, and had been in the Founders Bar but didn't buy a return ticket home, and then was shocked that we weren't paying for him to go home. Very, very odd. Then we had, of course, the screaming kids who I kind of begin to describe this to you, but these kids were basically telling us to fuck off, sticking up like middle fingers, and the mum was just allowing it to happen as if the mum had lost all will to live because these kids were just a pain in the ass. And this kid was going, "Will you shut the fuck up, bitch? Shut the fuck up." And I was like, wow. And then we had the guy who loved Cristiano Ronaldo, and if I didn't, I was going to get angry eyes from his entire country of people who everyone in that country loved Cristiano Ronaldo. So before we got off the train, out of absolutely nowhere, eight Parisian lads between the age of about 18 to 22 maximum came along and they went, "Ah, Sunderland." And I went, "Who do you support?" And they went, "Oh, PSG." And I went, "Ah, Nordi Mukiele." And they were like, "Edouard Michou." And I was like, "Oh, look at this. This is fantastic." They went, "Can we get a photo with your branch flag?" So yeah, of course you can, no problem. So there was a boy that came out of absolutely nowhere who it turned out was from Edinburgh. So he was trying to get in the photo, and the French lads were getting a bit like frustrated by this entire situation. So the head of our branch, Phil, he says, "Look, let them have the photo. Jump out the photo, mate. You've had a couple of drinks, like just knock off there." And Phil's a very polite man, so Phil eventually went, "Come on then, only French people in this photo." And this guy from Edinburgh turned around and went, "Je m'appelle John," and it might have been the funniest thing that it's ever happened because Phil had no answer to it and he just got in the photo and we shook hands. And then it turned out that the French guys hadn't asked for the photo. It was actually the guy from Edinburgh who'd asked for a photo with the branch flag with the boys from France. And then I had an hour-long conversation about loads of different things with a couple I've never met and probably will never see ever again. The train journeys home when we've won, as weird and surreal as they may be, are fucking brilliant when we've won and they've lost. And I will let you go with that. Dave, Sophie, Ian, thanks very much. I hope this continues because God, I'm having fun.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
I love you all on this podcast.
Oh.